Romans, Russians, and revolutions encircle this country's unbelievably unique and interesting history spanning nearly 2 millennia. It is not only an anomaly in the region, but also in the world, and thus has an incredible history. Yes, today's topic is the history of Romania. Hey guys, I'm your host David, and this is Eurasia. As mentioned in my previous video, less than 5% of my viewers are actually subscribers. This makes it extremely hard to make videos, so don't forget to click subscribe. It's free, you don't need to pay money, and you can always change your mind later. So go click the subscribe button right now. Yes, right now. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the history of Romania right now. Romanian history is complex. Extremely complex, in fact. However, it can be better understood if, first, you know the 4 different territories of Romania today. Thus, let's start with a quick geography of the country first. First off, Wallachia, located in the south of Romania, has historically had a large Romanian population. It is heavily forested with gorgeous rolling hills, and has a history influenced by the Bulgarians and Ottomans. The Danube River marks Wallachnia's border with Bulgaria today. But as the Danube moves east toward the Black Sea, the second territory of Romania, Dobruja, gives Romania sea access. It's important to note that many today, however, consider Dobruja part of Wallachia. Nonetheless, the 2 different territories' history differ greatly. Moldavia, located in the northeast, has been a highly contested region throughout history. In fact, today, Moldavia is split in half between Western Moldavia, which is located in Romania, and Eastern Moldavia, which makes up most of modern-day Moldova. As we'll see, most of Romania and Moldova's history have lots of commonalities and similarities. Lastly, inland in the northwest is Transylvania. It is an understatement to say that Transylvania has been fought over for millennia, as we will see. Part of the greater Carpathian Basin, the nature here is stunning with some of the highest mountains in Europe outside the Alps. Transylvania has hosted a plethora of people groups throughout human history. Romanian history is, in essence, a delicate balance and dance between these 4 territories. Thus, it is essential to understand each of these territories in order to fully understand the history of Romania. Though that may seem daunting to learn about, I can honestly say that Romanian history is one of the most interesting European histories to study. Romanian lands have been inhabited by humans for nearly 35,000 years. In fact, Romanian lands hold the record for the earliest known European civilization, known as the AAA culture, located in Western Moldavia today. Nonetheless, Romanian written history starts in around 440 BC, when Greek historians wrote about what was assumed to be the Dacian people, located in modern-day Romania, but also extending north and eastward as well. The various Dacian tribes were loosely organized and became stronger every century, but they were no match for larger empires. That is, until in 82 BC, a new king named Burebista united many of the Dacian tribes and, within 38 years of rule, Burebista saw the Dacian kingdom extend to an impressive size formidable to any empire. Actually, that's exactly what happened. Dacia launched successful attacks and raids against the Greeks. But the real enemy lay to the west. Dacia's expanse caught the eye of Rome, who, before the turn of the millennia, they were at war with. Within 100 years, the Dacians fell to the Romans. Once the Dacians fell to the Romans occupied only the western portion of it. Nonetheless, for 175 years until 275 AD, the Romans exercised control over Dacia. Due to outside pressures, including by the Dacians themselves, the Roman soldiers left Roman Dacia, excluding the areas around the Danube, in 275 AD. Nonetheless, their rule continued in one way or another. From the east and even into Dobruja, on especially the northern shores of the Danube, Roman settlers continued to hold a great influence in institutions and government. At the same time, the less populated and poorer outside regions were either being populated by the Roman settlers, or Dacians were coming to the more richer areas. This allowed for a mixing of the Dacian people with the Roman settlers, who would eventually be known as the Vlachs, or, as most Romanian historians consider them, the early Romanian people. Romanian history from 275 AD to the late 7th century would be quite quiet. Rulers from all corners of Romania would come and then go. However, in 681 AD, the first Bulgar kingdom would conquer much of the Vlach population. However, the Vlachs were not much of a headache for the Bulgars. The Bulgars would control Vlach lands for another 300 years. The Bulgars would adopt Old Church Slavonic as their liturgical language in 893, and soon the Vlachs would follow suit. By the turn of the century, the first Hungarian tribes had pushed out the Bulgars from Transylvania and northern Moldavia. But within a century, another nomadic group, the Pechenegs, would push the Hungarians out of most of modern-day Romania, except for some areas in Transylvania. Many Vlachs in Transylvania, especially in the north and west, moved into other parts of Transylvania or down south due to this. From these western Transylvanian territories, the first king of Hungary, Stephen I, would support Roman Catholic missionaries in Transylvania, which opened up Hungarian settlers to come to more parts of Transylvania. By the 1300s, Transylvania was a melting pot of vastly different people, but especially Vlachs and Hungarians. It is from the Kingdom of Hungary that we first hear of Vlach's land, or better known as Wallachia. Nonetheless, after the Mongolian invasions of the late 1200s, the Hungarian Empire took advantage of the power vacuum and took control over Wallachia. By the end of the 1310s, the Wallachian ruler, Basarab I, united Vlach lands in Wallachia and Transylvania against Hungarian rule. At the Battle of Posada in 1330, Basarab secured Wallachian independence, and Transylvania officially became part of the Kingdom of Hungary. At the same time, an exiled Vlach leader in Transylvania named Bogdan I escaped to the Hungarian vassal of Moldavia, where he would eventually force the Moldavian ruler to abdicate. By 1360, Moldavia had gained full independence. Dobruja would soon follow suit, but a new and seemingly unstoppable force from the south would crush any hopes of Dobrujan independence in 1388, and, eventually, Wallachian, Moldavian, and Transylvanian independence as well. Conquering Dobruja in 1388, the Ottoman Empire demanded tribute from the Wallachians and Moldavians, who gave in to the Ottoman demands for decades. Yet, increased taxes and incursions on Wallachian territory would cause Wallachians to rebel against the Ottomans in 1417 under the leadership of Mircea I and Vlad III. In 1456, the same would happen in Moldavia under the leadership of Stephen III. Nonetheless, despite unprecedented efforts to stop the Ottomans were in full control of Wallachia and Moldavia before the end of the century. In Transylvania, on the other hand, Vlachs rose up against Hungarian rule in 1437 due to raised taxes, but were quickly suppressed by the Hungarians, who were backed by local Hungarians as well as most other large ethnic groups in the region. This disadvantageous relationship between the Vlachs and other ethnicities in Transylvania would continue for another 100 years, as well as even into modern history. As the Ottomans conquered more and more into Central Europe, the Kingdom of Hungary inevitably fell as well, as did most of Transylvania in 1541. Under Ottoman rule, Transylvania became independent from the other principalities around it. Within 35 years, the Romanian principalities would again be in rebellion. This time, the Holy League, an alliance of Christian countries and kingdoms, allied together to push the Ottomans out of Central Europe in 1594. In 1600, Wallachian Prince Michael the Brave would shortly unite the Romanian principalities before being forced to abdicate and abandon the project by European powers. In 1684, the Holy League finally pushed out the Ottomans from Central Europe. In the process, the Habsburg monarchy absorbed Transylvania. The Habsburgs would push Roman Catholicism onto the Transylvanian Vlachs. The state of rebellion against the Ottomans continued in Moldavia and Wallachia, despite a weakening support from the other European Holy League members. By the middle of the 1710s, the Moldavians and Wallachians were in the middle of a political fight for control between the Europeans and Ottomans. In 1711, and then in 1714, Moldavians and Wallachians broke off their alliances with most European powers, causing the leaders of each country to be dethroned. From this, the Ottomans, realizing that they were losing power in the region, stopped allowing native leaders to take control of their territories, and only put elite Orthodox Christian rulers from Istanbul on each of the thrones. Yet, Their religion proved to be the only thing they had in common with the local Moldavians and Wallachians, and the Istanbul elites demanded higher and higher taxes, while also exercising more direct control over both of the territories. The Wallachians and Moldavians rose up in revolt against this, and the weakening Ottoman Empire had little success in suppressing these revolts. On the other hand, in 1775, the northwestern part of Moldavia was annexed by the Habsburgs. Later, in 1812, the eastern half of Moldavia was annexed by the Russian Empire. As the Russo-Turkish wars of the 1700s and 1800s raged on, the Russians continually began to take more control over the other parts of Moldavia, as well as Wallachia. Yet, up until the Romanian War of Independence, Ottoman sultans could choose the leaders of both of these territories. To simplify greatly, in many ways, the Russians and Ottomans had dual control over the territories, which left the native Romanians on the sidelines of decision-making. As the Romanians in Wallachia and Western Moldavia were becoming more and more impatient for independence, so too were the Romanians in Transylvania. Most accounts said that Romanians made the majority of Transylvanians. Yet, in Habsburg Transylvania, they were still treated as second-class citizens with little to no power to rise up against the much stronger Habsburgs. By the 1850s, Western Moldavia and Wallachia had enough trust and power to start making moves for independence. Though still under both Ottoman and Russian influence, in 1859, Wallachia and Western Moldavia united and elected their first prince. By 1866, a constitution was written, and the new country had been created. Romania was officially a country, but Russian and Ottoman power still was exercised over the country. In 1877, the Romanians had their chance in the form of the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 to 1878. Allied with the Russian Empire, the Romanians pushed the Ottoman armies and influence out of Romania. However, the Russian Empire continued to control all of eastern Moldavia despite what the Romanians wanted. As a positive, however, Romania was reluctantly given northern Dobruja by the Russian Empire in order to supply them with a seaport. Nonetheless, Romania was now independent. The modern state of Romania was officially born. Romania had quickly established a strong government after independence in 1878. However, perceived Russian betrayal in the Romanian War of Independence made them skeptical of Russia, and, thus, they joined the Central Powers. Yet this would not prevail for two large reasons. First, even though Austria-Hungary was in the Central Powers, Romanians still despised the Hungarians for Romanian treatment in Transylvania. Secondly, the Central Powers themselves betrayed the Romanians in 1913 when they supported Bulgaria, who was fighting Romania at the time, in the Second Balkan War. By the start of World War I, Romania remained neutral. Yet, Romania supported the Triple Entente indirectly, and by 1916, Romania was fully engaged in the war against the Central Powers despite being surrounded by them. Needless to say, Romania was no match for the powers that surrounded them. However, the Central Powers did not win the war, and Romania would come out of World War I very well. The Russian Civil War had created a new, yet weak Russia, and Eastern Moldavia quickly joined Romania. Austria-Hungary quickly fell, and their territory in Moldavia united with Romania. Most importantly, however, in 1918, Transylvania joined Romania. By 1920, Romania had become the powerhouse of the Balkans and Eastern Europe. Industrialization took off quickly, and oil exports ranked as one of the highest in the world. Democracy had allowed men to vote, and a two-party system was established. However, when the Great Depression started to take hold in Romania, the king began taking the democratic system and rights away. By 1938, Romania was officially under a royal dictatorship. Still with a well-established oil and manufacturing industry, Romania began selling oil and other military materials to Germany. Despite this, Germany, the Soviets, and others demanded that some of their territory be returned to them. By the end of 1940, Romanian territory had shrunk significantly. The quick loss of territories would cause a coup against the King of Romania, and Romania soon became a military dictatorship. By the middle of 1941, Romania had joined the Triple Alliance and the war, and German and Romanian armies pushed the Soviet Union eastward. However, as the tides of war turned against the Germans, so too did Romania. In the middle of 1944, the military dictatorship was dissolved, and a democratic two-party system was created. Soviet and Romanian armies pushed the Germans out of Romania, but the Soviets had no intention to put up with the democratic system. By the end of the war, the Communist Party had full control over the Romanian government under Soviet protection. Communist Romania remained politically repressive for the entirety of its existence. But in 1965, a new general secretary was appointed, Nicolae Ceausescu. Ceausescu would quickly receive the vigilant eye of Moscow. He was highly dismissive of the Soviet Union's foreign policy. However, internally, Ceausescu would become infamous for his cult of personality with which he ruled and forced upon the Romanian people. From 1977 to 1981, Romania was experiencing a recession, and Ceausescu began to take out outrageous loans. However, in 1981, the World Bank and IMF needed these loans paid back, despite the fact that Romania was still in the recession. He employed the policy of selling and exporting every single thing that the Romanian people made in order to pay for the loans. Everyday Romanians were pushed to the edge of starvation and extreme poverty. This time would last until 1989, when the Romanian people rose up against Ceausescu and the poverty which they had been experiencing in one of the few violent revolutions of the era. By the end of the Romanian Revolution of December of 1989, 1,000 Romanians were dead, including Ceausescu himself. After the Romanian Revolution, a democratic multi-party system was set up, and they pushed their relationship with Western Europe closer. Romania joined NATO in 2004, and in 2007, it became a full member of the EU. Today, there are a little less than 20 million citizens of Romania, and the GDP per capita has risen from about $1,750 in 2000 to about $12,500 in 2020. However, three major problems still plague Romania. First off, Romania has a major corruption problem. Throughout the late 2000s and well into today, protests continue regularly against corruption in Romania, and though it is getting better, it is still a major issue. In fact, it is usually the most important issue in political debates today in Romania. Secondly, Romanian migrants have been leaving Romania, and usually not supporting the Romanian economy as much as they could be in Romania. Romania is the sixth largest country in the world in terms of immigrants abroad, and since they are part of the EU, many Romanians find other European countries more attractive than living in Romania itself. Thirdly, Romania's population is declining. Romania is one of the few countries in the world who has had a negative population growth rate, and this has caused a huge population of older people in relation to the number of younger people, which is especially worrying in a middle-income country such as Romania. Romania most definitely has problems today, but Romania is growing. Romanians today have their own country, and most people are optimistic about the future of Romania. All in all, Romania is a country with a 2,000-year-old history evolving from the incredibly unique interaction of local and Roman settlers. Through thick and thin, they have held on to these unique beginnings and, today, are proud of it just as much as they are optimistic about the future of Romania. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, and, as I mentioned before, don't forget to subscribe. Simply clicking that subscribe button helps me out unbelievably. Nonetheless, like always, stay happy, stay humble, stay hopeful, and goodbye.